Baseball isn't just numbers, numbers, numbers.
This game is not being played on computers.
You don't do that with a bunch of statistical gimmicks.
You don't put a team together with a computer.
We're talking weighted runs created plus,
expected WOBA,
his sweet spot rate,
defensive runs above average,
average exit velocity,
barrel rate,
xFIP,
BABIP,
SIERA.
We are
above replacement radio.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio. We're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Sale-Vaughn. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing very well today. It's been a long time, it feels like, since the last show. The holidays have come and gone. This is the last day of 2023, which was a pretty big year for both of us, I would say, personally. But it's been another fun year on this show. It was another fun season to cover. And I'm glad to be back off this little 3-week hiatus that we had.
Yeah, it is always exciting to come back after a little bit of time off, whether it be, usually it's unintentional, usually just stuff gets in the way. So it's always good to just, your things seem back in order when you're getting back on the podcast and whatnot. So very fun to be back. A lot has happened, a lot has transpired over the past few weeks, maybe a little less than expected. The market is a little bit slower than definitely was last year. If we went on a 3-week hiatus last year, we would have had 12 9-figure signings to be talking about. But
yep.
Right now we just have a couple big deals, but not too many. And the headliner of them all was Yoshinobu Yamamoto being signed by the Los Angeles Dodgers for 12 years, $325 million, along with a $50 million signing bonus. What did you think about this deal going down?
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely, I feel like it came more as a shock to a lot of baseball fans because, when Ohtani signed with the Dodgers, a lot of the reaction was, yeah, of course he was going to go there. It makes sense. When Yamamoto went, people started to, breaking down like, okay, this is insane, right? They're paying $700 million for Ohtani. They're paying $325 million for Yamamoto, the highest pitcher contract in the history of baseball. And the guy hasn't even thrown a pitch in Major League Baseball yet. But it's a really exciting signing. I mean, I think he's going to be among outside of Ohtani, he's going to get a lot of attention and some of the most attention in spring training next year. If anything, he'll probably get more attention, in terms of his spring training performance than anyone else next year. And for good reason, because this guy is awesome. I mean, he won the Japanese equivalent of the Cy Young for the last 3 seasons, 1.39 ERA in 193 and 2/3 innings pitched in 2021, a 1.68 ERA in 193 innings pitched in 2022, and a 1.16 ERA in 71 innings this year. I think Yoshinobu Yamamoto automatically is a top 10 pitcher in Major League Baseball right now. It's obviously hard to prove statistically because he hasn't faced a lot of Major League hitting, but I'm really excited for this signing. I'm excited that he's going to be with Ohtani. And that the Dodgers have an ace at the top of that rotation.
Yes, it's very exciting, and I think there's definitely an argument to be laid out that this, along with coupling with the Tyler Glasnow deal, but even just the Yamamoto deal on its own could be more impactful to the 2024 Dodgers roster than Shohei Ohtani signing, because obviously Ohtani is limited to half of his workload this year. With, having Tommy John surgery and all and not being able to pitch. So, watching last year's playoffs, it was extremely clear that the Dodgers' biggest weakness was starting pitching. They had Clayton Kershaw go out there game 1, who, peripherally didn't look as good. And he got, whacked around by the Diamondbacks. And then Bobby Miller came out, didn't have a great performance. Lance Lynn was out there with his, upper 5s ERA. Didn't have a good performance. Now you can push all those guys back, and I know Clayton Kershaw is not healthy right now, but and I guess this goes along with the Tyler Glasnow trade as well. But now Walker Buehler doesn't have to walk in and be your number 1 starter. He doesn't have that pressure coming off Tommy John surgery and being the Dodgers ace, the NL West favorites ace. Now he can be your number 3. Now Bobby Miller doesn't have to be a front end of the rotation guy. Now he's, more back end, doesn't have to be relied upon that much. And Emmett Sheehan, if he ends up being in the rotation, he doesn't have to be middle of the rotation. He doesn't have to be, hypothetically the Dodgers, one of the Dodgers starters in the playoffs. If it, simulated that way and he ended up being that way, he could be a number 5 guy and then go into the bullpen when the Dodgers, eventually go to the playoffs. So I think this just puts a little bit of relief on the rest of the roster. And that's why I think that the Yamamoto deal could, for just 2024, could be more impactful than the Shohei Ohtani signing.
Yeah, I want to go into some of the projections that Fangraphs has given him. Steamer has him pitching 184 innings, having a 3.97 ERA and a 3.95 FIP, for a 3.4 Fangraphs wins above replacement. To me, that feels like his floor, to be completely honest. I think Yamamoto, it could be a 4 to 5, maybe even 6-win pitcher, pretty consistently in Major League Baseball. And if 3.4 is like a projection just coming out of Japan, understanding that there is some sort of transition that needs to happen between facing Japanese hitters to facing MLB hitters, 3.4 is still a very solid F4 for only 184 innings.
Right. And it's interesting to hear that, considering, like, I don't think there's really been that steep of a bridge.
Yeah, and to be fair, I honestly think that they're kind of overselling his home runs. They have him giving up 1.3 home runs per 9, and he gave up, let's see, how many home runs? 15 home runs in the last 3 seasons in Japan. And I understand that the approach in Japan is different, but that's a very high increase.
Yeah, it
1.35.
It's interesting, and like to compare that projection to some of the more high profile starting pitchers that have come out of Japan. Yu Darvish, his rookie year, he had a 3.90 ERA but a 3.29 FIP, and then Masahiro Tanaka had great success when he came over as a 25-year-old. He had a 2.77 ERA and a 3.04 FIP in 136 innings pitched in his rookie year. So it's interesting to see, considering the industry consensus around Yamamoto. It's interesting to see that, they see him sort of, having a little bit of a bridge year.
Even just going with a more recent example, look at Kodai Senga. He, in 2022, he gave up 0.4 home runs per 9 in Japan, and he gave up 0.92 home runs per 9 in America. So, sure, like maybe there'll be an increase, but going from like 0.1 home runs per 9 over a 3-year span to 1.35, I think is quite extreme. And that's also gonna, have a big impact on his FIP, on his F4, on some of the more advanced metrics. And I think is gonna tell a lot of the story of how he's going to be in his rookie year.
Yeah, for sure. What were the ERA and FIP numbers again that they were projecting?
3, like high 3s.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. We'll see about it though. It's not a guarantee that it's going to be an instant success. However, they don't just hand out $325 million contracts to anybody, and they don't hand out $27 million a year to anybody.
To understand how good this guy is, Fangraphs gives him a 60 grade fastball, a 45 to 55 grade slider, which means it's 45 now, but it has potential to get up to 55. A 60 grade curveball, a 70 grade splitter, which splitters are very rare in Major League Baseball, not as rare as they are in Japan. So to have a 70 grade, like Johan Duran, I would imagine is the closest thing we have in Major League Baseball to a 70 grade splitter, or Kevin Gausman, one of those two. So the fact that he's a 70 is quite extreme. And then how about an 80 grade for command? Like an 80 grade for command, that's as high as you can get. And they don't give 80s very often. Like they gave it to 1 or 2 people in each category a year, if that. So this guy is supposed to be legit, and I think he's going to be legit. I mean, they paid him $325 million without throwing a single pitch. So this is a very exciting signing for the Dodgers. And I think a lot of eyes are going to be on him in the coming years.
Yeah, for sure. And part of the exciting part about this deal is he is still just 25 years old. So, could potentially even get better. So there's plenty of potential there. And yeah, the 80 grade command definitely intrigues me, because I mean, that's just gonna, I feel like that just translates no matter what. Like, swing and miss, it can get, muddled from there to here, or having a high home run rate against or barrel rate against, that can be muddled from Japan to MLB. But the command is probably just going to stay, and he's probably going to not walk a lot of guys and just hit his spots consistently. So that should be very interesting. And now the Dodgers have a very, very long-term option at pitching, which is very interesting. Anything more on the Yamamoto deal before we get into the Glasnow trade?
No, I mean it's gonna be really cool for the Dodgers. Can we talk about the whole like super team thing? Because that's given a lot of discourse on the internet and just
Right.
throughout the baseball sphere. So
Well,
the Dodgers, I mean, they are, they're outspending, pretty much the entire league right now. I mean, they've spent like over 50% of all free agent dollars have been the Dodgers. They've spent $1 billion total on just Yamamoto and Ohtani. And their current projected payroll for 2023, even with the Ohtani, the deferrals where he's only making $2 million a year, it's at $286 million. So they're about $50 million over the luxury tax right now. And I mean, I think the correct take here is don't be mad at the Dodgers, be mad at all the other owners that aren't willing to spend like a fraction of what they're spending.
yeah, 100%, 100%. Like, just like, and also you look at who the Dodgers are spending on and the contracts they have. They're not completely absurd. Like, Anthony Rendon is making, I think, $5 million more a year than Mookie Betts, which is pretty crazy. He's making $8 million more a year than Freddie Freeman. Are there, like, Freddie Freeman's only making, I don't know, like, I think
27 million a year.
Yeah, he's making 27 million a year. I think he's making maybe $1 more million a year than Paul Goldschmidt, who, Freddie Freeman's a better first baseman than right now, at least. Like, the Freddie Freeman, he's a top 5 player in the game right now, and he's only getting 27 million a year. Yamamoto, he's getting 27 million a year. That's not a crazy amount. Like, that's what Carlos Rodon got last offseason. He got 27 million a year. So, these aren't these crazy. The Shohei Ohtani deal is the only crazy one, and obviously that has its own litany to it, because, or that's that own story to it, because he's only getting paid $2 million a year right now, and for the luxury tax purposes, he's getting paid 46 a year, which pretty much opened up that Yamamoto deal, I think.
Not only that, but no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, yeah, that was pretty much what I was gonna say.
Yeah, not only that, but the Dodgers have a decent chunk of money coming off the books after next year. Manuel Margot is getting paid $10 million this year. He was recently acquired in the Tyler Glasnow trade that we'll get to in a second. And he has a $12 million mutual option for next year, which is almost certainly going to be declined because literally no mutual option is ever taken. They're paying Jason Hayward $9 million next year, and he's a free agent in 2025. Joe Kelly's making $9 million. He's a free agent in 2025. Miguel Rojas is making $5 million, and he's got a $5 million club option in 2025, which may or may not be taken. Austin Barnes is making $3.5 million. He's got a club option next year. Walker Buehler is projected to make $8 million in arbitration, and he's a free agent next year. So like, there's like $30 million coming off the books for the Dodgers next year just by people they're losing in free agency alone. And at this point, it really doesn't feel like there's much the Dodgers need to add like more. There's not much more that the Dodgers need to add. Like, their lineup is still very good. Even with that, even if you take away the guys that I just mentioned, they're still a World Series contender, right? I mean, they still have Betts long term. They have Freeman long term. They have Ohtani long term, of course. Yamamoto long term. Glasnow long term. Like Gavin Lux is a guy that could step forward this year. They're still gonna have Max Muncy, Will Smith for another year. James Outman just had a fantastic rookie season. Like, this is still a very deep team, going beyond the guys that they're gonna not have to worry about in their financial, payroll next year.
Yeah, it, like, there's definitely more to add here, and I'm trying to just look on Spot Track to see where the Dodgers like payroll compares to some of the highest in the league. I think the Mets are still have a higher payroll. The Yankees for 2024 have higher projected total tax allocations than the Dodgers do, which means like that accounts for the Dodgers paying instead of paying Ohtani $2 million, according to the tax allocations, they're paying him, I think, $46 million.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird that we have to put on like our early 2021 finance bro hats to understand this Ohtani deal, but nonetheless, the point is the Yankees payroll is very, very similar to the Dodgers payroll, but however, we're looking at these two teams in entirely different lights. The Yankees are, I think they're still a favorite to win the AL East, but it's not a slam dunk. As the Dodgers, they're a slam dunk to win the NL West and maybe even break the regular season wins record. And we're not talking about the Yankees that way. So it's just really a matter of putting, not only spending the money, but spending it, in a smart way.
Yeah, and that's what they've done. I mean, you look at their long-term deals, right? I mean, Mookie Betts, like that contract looks better and better as the years go on. Freddie Freeman, it feels like he should have been making $200 million with the way he's performed, because he's performed better with the Dodgers in these 2 years than he has in pretty much any other year he had with the Braves, and he's only making $162 million total. Ohtani is, he's Ohtani, and that contract is going to pay itself off because of his off the field money and how much money he's going to bring into the Dodgers organization. And clearly, like, they see something with Yamamoto. I mean, he got $325 million. The Dodgers have a history of spending wisely, and I think they've not given us any reason to believe that this contract won't be very wise in the end.
Right, exactly. And I mean, this is a top, like a separate topic, but now also with the Yamamoto signing, like the Dodgers have basically cornered the Japanese market, and anyone from Japan is going to be pretty much an automatic Dodgers fan, because two of the best players to come out of there are with the Dodgers right now. So
yeah,
like that's just there's always potential with financially benefiting from that, just from jersey sales and people trying to watch over in Japan and trying to watch Dodgers games and whatnot. So there's just that factor as well. But they're just spending. The Dodgers are spending in the right direction. They don't have a Giancarlo Stanton contract right now. They don't have a Carlos Rodon contract right now. They don't even have like a LeMahieu. I don't know if they have a LeMahieu contract.
they don't have the
right
LeMahieu contract. Yeah, I mean, branching out to other teams that don't have an Anthony Rendon contract. They don't have a Patrick Corbin contract. They don't have a Chris Sale contract.
Yeah,
like all of them, and maybe Tyler Glasnow is the closest thing we could see being that because of his injury history. But even then, it's only $135 million, right? Like there are much worse contracts out there.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, and that whole thing is very much an injury thing. But yeah, with the idea of, and how you sort of brought this up, the idea of a super team with baseball, like, yeah, I mean, if it's happening, and it's not like they're even spending more than every other team in baseball. I think the Mets are still spending more on their team than the Dodgers. So
the Mets just paid $100 million in luxury tax allocations.
Yeah. So like I'm sorry that that the Dodgers are just spending more wisely, and they have some real good, front office, or are very good with the front office, and are able to maintain a top 10 farm system in baseball while being very, very aggressive in improving their MLB team. They've hacked it, and the fact that they haven't won more World Series is sort of just organizational bad luck. It's not bad luck on the players' side, like they obviously haven't executed in the postseason, but just from an organizational perspective, they should just have more World Series. It just hasn't happened for whatever reason. That's not, as we've said 1,000 times, like it's not Andrew Friedman's fault that Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman combined to go 1 for 21 in the LDS. Like it's just he couldn't possibly just foresee that and not sign those guys.
Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman both have beaten them in the playoffs previously before they signed with the Dodgers, or before they were acquired by the Dodgers. Like, it's not like they could have predicted it.
Exactly. So yeah, it'll be exciting to watch It will be funny seeing those, like that late night on when you're on MLB TV and it's like there's nothing else to watch, and that just the Dodgers are just at home
Yeah,
crushing the Rockies.
it's 9-1, yeah, against the Rockies.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's the bottom of the seventh. Every other game has ended already. It's like, well, do I watch this 9-1 Dodgers game or do I go to bed?
Yeah, it's like I guess Yamamoto is about to pitch his seventh inning, so
Yeah,
I guess I'll watch. This.
yeah.
So yeah, Yamamoto was not the only Dodgers starting pitching addition, as they went out and got Tyler Glasnow at a bit more of a cost, not financially, but through just organizational capital. They had to give up Ryan Pepiot, who is a prized possession. Probably wasn't easy to give him away, so good on the Rays for getting him. What did you think about this trade?
Yeah, and I'll start with Tyler Glasnow. I mean, he's a guy that we're still kind of waiting to see what the big picture looks like, because in 2019 he looked really good from April to May, and then he got a season-ending injury. 2020, obviously, that all happened. 2021 he got Tommy John surgery, and he famously I guess I don't know if blamed is the right word, but he pointed to the sticky substance ban midseason as to why his arm gave out, and that cost him a lot of 2021, also a lot of 2022, and then in 2023 he also got hurt, but he did pitch 120 innings, which is the most that he's pitched in a season, and he did it extremely well. I mean, a 2.91 FIP in 120 innings pitched is excellent. I'll have to see where that ranks among pitchers with that many innings last year.
Well, one thing I did look up is his rank since 2019, and obviously his innings filter is going to be a little bit lower than normal. But out of 143 pitchers to throw 330 plus innings since 2019, his ERA ranks 11th. His FIP ranks second. FIP ranks second since 2019 out of 143 pitchers with 330 plus innings pitched. And then if you go to the StatCast end of things, his xWOBA ranks 7th lowest out of 157 pitchers to throw 5,000 plus pitches since the start of 2019. So it's not really a matter of is Glasnow going to perform, is he going to perform when he's on the mound? Is he going to be on the mound?
Yeah, going even more into it, out of the 102 pitchers in 2023 that had 120 innings pitched, Glasnow had the third lowest FIP at 2.91. He also had the second lowest SIERA, which is a combination of strikeout rate minus walk rate and ground ball rate. The only person who did better was Spencer Strider, who just put up, a historic strikeout to walk season. He also has the second highest K rate minus walk rate on that list. 25.8 is the difference between his strikeout rate and his walk rate. He had the second highest strikeout rate in baseball, behind Spencer Strider. And in ground ball rate, he had a 51% ground ball rate, which is 8th on that same list. So there's not really an aspect of pitching that Tyler Glasnow doesn't dominate. He's been excellent pretty much all around. The home run rate is less than 1 per 9, which is not bad. It's good enough for the third best FIP, minimum 120 innings. So yeah, I mean, the Dodgers, if you extrapolate Tyler Glasnow's workload over 180 innings, he's a top 10 pitcher in baseball. You could even probably argue further if you really wanted to. The trouble, of course, is will he be able to extrapolate that workload over 180 innings?
Yeah, 100%. And it's not the exact same, but it's like a sort of like a DeGrom light scenario. Like, we know how amazing DeGrom is, but obviously he hasn't been able to consistently be on the mound since 2020. And it's sort of the same thing with Tyler Glasnow. Like, he's going to perform. He's performed well, and I don't think that gets enough attention because of how prominent his health problems have been. But when he's out there, you're getting, he's got, I think, a 33% strikeout rate consistently. Yeah. It's pretty unbelievable. I'm trying to search where his strikeout rate ranks, since the start of 2019. I'll just look at strikeouts per 9 since 2019 out of pitchers with 330 plus innings pitched, but he ranks second behind DeGrom in that category. Like he walks guys at a below average rate, which it's crazy. So yeah, he performs. It's just a matter of keeping him healthy, and I don't know if the Dodgers are going to improve him on that. I know the Rays have a horrible history with keeping pitchers healthy, so maybe going to the Dodgers is going to be, very, very helpful to Glasnow. I certainly hope it is. Seems like he's a very fun pitcher to watch. So yeah, interested to see what this goes like. But to go back to the point of the Dodgers pitching staff, yeah, if Glasnow stays healthy and Yamamoto is effective, that moves Buehler back to a 3 spot. Potentially that moves Bobby Miller back to a 4 spot. This tremendously helps out the Dodgers rotation, which was obviously the biggest weakness last year.
Yeah, and I think the most encouraging thing with Glasnow is something we haven't even gone over yet. Chris, what organization is he leaving?
He's leaving the Tampa Bay Rays.
And what does that signify for him?
Probably better days of health ahead.
Yeah, I mean we've gone into the history of Rays pitching with injuries in the recent years. I mean they lost 3 pitchers to Tommy John surgery last year: Drew Rasmussen, Shane McClanahan, and Jeffrey Springs. Am I missing one? Was there another one?
Did Rasmussen end up getting Tommy John? Because I know he
got a shoulder surgery it might have been separate.
Yeah, but I know McClanahan and Springs last year. Just historically, Glasnow obviously got Tommy John surgery in his tenure there. Just if you go back, a few years, it's like, yeah, Yanni Chirinos got Tommy John surgery. Andrew Kittredge, I think Chaz Rowe got a shoulder surgery. Colin Poche got Tommy John. There's a whole YouTube short about it in our page. Goes back, I think it was back in June, before even McClanahan got Tommy John surgery. So, it's just when you're with the Rays, you're signing up for a Tommy John surgery pretty much if you throw, over 90 miles per hour. So Rich Hill happened to avoid it, but yeah, like it's tough out there in Tampa Bay. So yeah, as I said, as you're saying, or you're implying, going to the Dodgers is probably, or
it's
just
encouraging.
Leaving the Rays in general.
It's definitely a plus. It's not going to guarantee anything because injuries happen to every team. They just happen to happen to the Rays a lot more, especially with starting pitchers and pitchers with high velocity like Tyler Glasnow. But yeah, I mean, if there's any sort of reason that you're looking for encouragement, as to say, hey, I really want to see this guy in a full season, we haven't really seen it yet, look no further than he's leaving the Rays.
Yeah, absolutely. Just try to, even just anecdotally, if you're listening, just try to think of the last time a Rays pitcher was just year in and year out delivering. You'd have to go back to Chris Archer, even like Price and Shields. Like, yeah, that's what you have to think of before probably.
Maybe Blake Snell, but he also had his injury problems, not like shoulder surgeries, but
yeah,
he really only had, he had his very good year in 2018. He struggled a bit in 2019. 2020 was, not a full season, and then he got traded.
Yeah, and 2019, I think he had an IL stint, maybe 120 innings or something like that.
That was the first year that I did an F4 league, and I drafted Blake Snell as my number 1 starting pitcher.
Yeah.
And I finished last that year. I did awful.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, I still have my team like upstairs, but I drafted Francisco Cervelli as my catcher.
All right.
He had negative WAR that year. Literally every person I had underperformed. It was pretty awful. I think you could tell we're going off topic here, but anecdotally, you know how inexperienced I was at F4? I drafted German Marquez.
Yeah.
The rookie mistake.
Yep. Yeah, that's a rookie mistake.
Yeah, you can't draft Rockies pitchers in F4 because getting F4 means giving up as little number of home runs as possible.
Yeah, and it was pre the existence of this show where I think we both just dove into things more.
It was I was a senior in high school.
Yeah. So
and now I'm about to start a full-time job. So out of college.
Yeah. So, we've had experience looking at what these things mean, but yeah, going back to Um, yeah, Tyler
Tyler
Glasnow,
Glasnow.
he leaves the Rays. It should be a positive, if we saw an uptick in innings, even if that meant just 150 innings, not even qualifying, that is an amazing positive for the Dodgers.
I was gonna say, like, how much? Yeah, I mean, he could probably make the F4 like front page leaderboard without qualifying if he really wanted to.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, he might have done it this year. He had 3.2 this year.
Just drop that innings qualifier to 0 and see what's up. But yeah, having a sub 3 FIP is extremely hard. So, if he's able to pretty much consistently do it, he has since the start of 2019. I think his FIP is 2.89 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to talk about the other end of the trade?
I was gonna say I did want to say some words about Ryan Pepiot. So I mean, some guys are worth mentioning. Manuel Margot was also in this trade. He's going from the Rays to the Dodgers as well. And also Johnny DeLuca, a prospect who played kind of briefly for the Dodgers. I don't know if he ever made it to the majors or not. Yes, he did very briefly. He played 24 games. I haven't looked at his batted ball metrics, admittedly, but he had relatively league average rate stats on the surface. But I do want to talk about Pepiot because of the Dodgers, like young pitching prospects and young arms, whether it be Gavin Stone, Emmett Sheehan, Bobby Miller. Bobby Miller is obviously the most has the most upside, but I think of like the kind of like relatively unknowns, Ryan Pepiot is probably my favorite one. He had 7.6 strikeouts per walk last year in 42 innings pitched. He had a 2.04 ERA plus because he had a 2.14 ERA. Unfortunately, he did struggle quite a lot with home runs. He actually gave up more home runs than walks, which is pretty amazing over that workload, even if it's just 42 innings. But I think the Rays are getting a good one here if they can keep him healthy.
Yeah. It definitely seems like a trade that works for both teams here. What I find kind of interesting is there was a crazy change in walk rate from 2022 to 2023, and I wonder if that's going to balance. Like, I wonder if just Pepiot having a 3% walk rate next year is going to be sustainable. Even though that's something, walk rate and strikeout rate is something we usually see as sustainable, but having a 3% walk rate is hard to maintain unless you're, I don't even know. Yeah, George Kirby, but he went from 16.9% walking 16.9% of the batters he faced in 2022 to walking 3% of the batters he faced in 2023, and that wasn't even just a change in sample size. He threw within 100 pitches he threw even less pitches than he did in 2022. So I'm wondering how much he maintains that. But yeah, the fact that he had over a 20% strikeout minus walk rate last year is extremely encouraging. Obviously the 2.14 ERA sticks out. 3.23 expected ERA really sticks out as well. So, it definitely seems like the Rays were not, on the short end of the bargain here.
No, they definitely weren't. And it's 1 year of Tyler Glasnow for what, like 5 years of Ryan Pepiot. When is
I would
he
imagine, yeah.
After 2028. So yeah, they have him for a while, and the Rays were never going to re-sign Tyler Glasnow. The Dodgers got him on what could be a very bargain contract. It could be a rough contract if he doesn't stay healthy. It could be one of the best contracts in baseball if he performs to his potential. 5 years, 135 million, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that could end up looking like a bargain for LA because I mean, he's, like I said, Cy Young candidate, top 10 pitcher in baseball if he extrapolates that workload over 180 innings.
Yeah, and regarding Glasnow, I think it was I think the contract also bought out this year, so it's not even like it's a super long-term deal. It's 4 extra years.
Yeah, so I mean that probably takes him to his like low 30s.
I would imagine so. I'm not sure what his age is. I think he's 29 right now.
He's going into age 30, so it'll take him to age 34 then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, no, not especially for a pitcher. where a lot of the time pitchers just do better in their 30s, which, not the case with position players typically. And I definitely understand it from a Dodgers perspective because, if cost independent, if I'm looking, who do I want for the next 5 years or who can I rely on for the next 5 years, Glasnow versus Pepiot, I think I would lean Glasnow. And obviously the Dodgers financially, they're not really worrying about, the 27 million a year that they're going to give Glasnow. And I think they're mostly concerned about a championship for 2024, which Glasnow is probably going to put them in a better direction for that than Pepiot would. So they're willing to maybe sacrifice a little bit of that long-term flexibility because they probably already have so much. And, they really want to get this championship. And they obviously saw what was preventing them from getting that last year. And that was a lot of starting pitching. Granted, their offense didn't perform, but starting pitching put them in a bad spot also. So, yeah. Anything more on this Dodgers Rays deal?
I mean, I think it's a pretty decent trade for both sides. I like Pepiot. I think Glasnow has great potential. I do think it makes the Rays a worse team in 2023, but that's obviously, they're looking beyond 2023 for this trade, which I understand from their perspective. They weren't going to pay Glasnow. But I think Pepiot is a guy that people can get excited about if you're enough of a nerd.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like this for the Rays as well. Like, this is not a team that hands out 9-figure contracts. It's never been a thing except for, unfortunately, Wander
yeah.
Franco.
Yeah.
But they don't hand them out to pitchers. They don't hand them out to guys going into their 30s. So yeah, it just wasn't going to happen, and they get Ryan Pepiot out of it, a pretty good prospect. So I think this could end up being a pretty even trade, and I could see even the Rays winning it as well. But nonetheless, the Dodgers have Glasnow, Rays have Pepiot, and some other guys. But with the booming noise that the Dodgers have made, the Giants made a little bit of a swift whistle with a 9-figure deal of their own. They got Jung-Hoo Lee, this outfielder out of Korea, gave him 6 years, $113 million. And, we don't really know what Jung-Hoo Lee is going to do in the majors. I'm just very happy that the Giants have made a splash of any sort, considering where they're at just organizationally right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we've been talking for a while about how they need to make a big move. They've whiffed on it a lot of times in the recent past with Correa, which, I mean, they landed Correa. They just, backed out of it because of his knee. With Judge, with Ohtani, with a lot of guys. And they finally got a legit guy in Jung-Hoo Lee, a $113 million contract here. There's not much we can really say in terms of predicting what's going to happen, but what I can tell you is that in almost 4,000 plate appearances in Korea, excuse me, he slashed 340, 407, 491 for an 898 OPS. A 340 average over 4,000 plate appearances is really impressive. He's also had at least an 860 OPS in every year since 2018, which, by the way, was his age 19 season. He's going into his age 25 season, so this deal is going to cover the rest of his 20s and into his early 30s, which is definitely good for the Giants. And yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting move, and I'm excited to see how it works out for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And most of all, like with this thing, it's not something that we can analyze that much, along with the Yamamoto deal, to be completely honest, because we haven't seen them play in the majors. We don't have, their StatCast data or their batted ball profile and whatnot. But just from a Giants perspective, if I'm a Giants fan, I'm happy that they're going out and getting somebody, considering, they tried to get 2 different guys last year, didn't work out, didn't finalize on either of them. And they have a lot of financial flexibility. They have a big hole in that outfield as well. Their outfield OPS last year was 682. That ranked 3rd worst in baseball last year. So getting some offense in that outfield is pretty necessary. And I also believe they are not having they don't have Jock Peterson on the roster right now because he is a free agent, right?
Yes.
So that, fills that hole a little bit if they don't bring Jock Peterson back. And just like looking at the Giants organization, beyond 2025, the only players they have any dollars committed to are Logan Webb and Jung-Hoo Lee. So I think this is this should be the start of something. I think they should go out and get more. I think, I'm not in support of investing a lot in Cody Bellinger, but I think the Giants should look at that because they have a lot of financial flexibility. They have the flexibility to have a potentially bad contract. So if Cody Bellinger is going to improve their team, that's something that they should, go after, because Jung-Hoo Lee is not going to fix all their outfield offensive problems. They lost Jock Peterson. They're probably going to lose Jock Peterson here. Mitch Haniger and Michael Conforto did not end up being the solutions that they needed them to be. So, look at more outfield bats, with Cody Bellinger being the most notable of those guys. So yeah, I think this should be the start of, some more splashes with the Giants, no matter the position. I don't even care if it's an outfielder.
Yeah, going back into Lee specifically, I think in terms of skill set, he looks very similar to how Masataka Yoshida looked going into last year with the Red Sox. This is a guy that hits very well for average and has, can hit for power when he needs to. 23 home runs in 2022, only 6 last year, but he only played 86 games. Looks like he may have been hurt for some of it. But his best power season was in 2022 at age 23. So, there's no reason to believe he can't repeat that. He also walks far more than he strikes out. He walked just last year alone a 12.7% walk rate and a 5.9% strikeout rate. I know that, the approach is a little different in Korea, and the pitching is certainly different, but that should translate to some degree in Major League Baseball. Fangraphs has him projected to have a 9.1% strikeout rate and an 8.2% walk rate. And interestingly enough, they also have him with a 3.4 wins above replacement on Fangraphs, which is the same as Yamamoto. We're still waiting for Zips to come out, I believe, unless they already have with those teams specifically, because I know that they have released certain team projections.
Yeah, what's also intriguing me is in these Fangraphs projections, they predict him to have a positive defensive impact, two defensive runs above average. So that provides a lot of, if that provides a lot there, because if he doesn't end up being a great bat, at least he's not taking away from your defensive your defensive abilities as well, like Masataka Yoshida does. Because if we're comparing him to Masataka Yoshida, if Yoshida's not hitting, he is a very negative impact for whatever team you're playing with, because he doesn't, obviously playing left field, you don't bring a lot of value in general, but also, not the greatest range, not the greatest arm. Whereas Lee, if he can contribute positively on defense, that definitely changes things and makes this a little more valuable for the Giants.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I think it's, I'm glad the Giants fans have something to be excited about. He did look really good in Korea over the last few years. And again, he's only 25. So, you're getting him for theoretically his prime years in terms of his age. He started playing professionally in Korea at age 18 and he tore it up right from there. So, it's an exciting signing, and I'm intrigued to see what happens.
Yeah, it is intriguing. I'm also looking a little closer. So last year he didn't have what looked like a full season. He played 86 games. In his last full season, he had a 175 weighted runs created plus in Korea. So that just means he was 75% above the average KBO player. So he's shown potential to be just really, really good.
Remember when the KBO was like the biggest thing in baseball?
I also remember May of 2020.
Yep. What a time.
Yeah, that was pretty huge.
They were putting the KBO on ESPN because there was literally nothing else on, and I mean nothing else on.
No, yeah, definitely not. People are just waiting for the next friggin' Jordan documentary episode to happen.
Yeah, or the Mariners documentary.
Yeah,
whichever you were.
Yeah, whatever taste you had.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this Lee signing is, no matter what the results of it are, I'm happy for the Giants that they went out and did this, because yeah, they're a big market team, but they don't really have a big market payroll right now. They obviously, as I said, they don't have any dollars committed beyond 2025 to players not named Jung-Hoo Lee or Logan Webb. Like that's just the next 2 years. So they could get more guys in the books. So looking
Going
forward to it
even
there.
yeah, going even further, they've also been fighting a lot of narratives about San Francisco in general. People are forming narratives that, San Fran is like very crime ridden. It's not a good city to live in, and that no one wants to play there, and taxes are high in California. And like, I'm not here to speak on whether that's true or not. I've never been to San Francisco. The most west I've ever been is Chicago. So I can't speak to any of that. Chris, I know you've been there, but I mean, like, it's got to be very frustrating for Giants fans, for the organization to have to deal with that, regardless of what the accuracy of it is. But it's got to feel good to like have someone to say they wanted to be here, they're happy to be here, they're excited.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And like, even with like, it's not going to be a discussion about those narratives, but like,
Yeah,
that Correa agreed to go there for,
literally yes. Korea was ready to be there for what, like 12, 13 years.
yeah, exactly. And regarding taxes, like, people are lining up to go to the Dodgers, so I don't think it's that. That's the
Yeah.
same state.
Yep.
And then I don't know, as a city, obviously it has its own reputation, but also if you're a multimillionaire in the city, you're not going to be in those areas probably that are bad typically.
Yep.
I think that's true for every city.
I was just say, like, guess, like, which team has like made a couple good free agent signings this offseason? The Tigers. Like, talk about
Yeah,
a city that has a reputation.
yeah, like like, look at even the Cubs, or especially the White Sox, if the White Sox make free agent signings, like,
Martin Maldonado.
yeah. But Yasmani Grandal back in the day when they
Yeah.
signed him, like, I don't think, you live, you live in the
Yeah.
neighborhood you live in, and that's kind of what it is.
Yeah. I don't know, and it's annoying because those narratives would never have existed if the Giants didn't back out of the Correa deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they never would have formed in any sort of way. People try to frame it as, oh, Correa didn't want to go to the Giants. No, Correa was ready to be introduced as a Giant, actually.
Right. And I'm not sure the city is that much worse than it was when they were signing like Cueto and Matt Cain and uh and Barry Zito and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that much has transpired in the last 10 years to change that, but who
And
knows?
also, yeah, also there's so many like former Giants players that have come out and being like, no, I love it. Like Hunter Pence, like, very inconspicuously made an Instagram post being like, on a walk in my favorite city, San Francisco. I love it here.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
clearly very intentional. But like, like, I mean, Barry Bonds still lives there, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty much like any city where
Yeah.
if you're in the right areas of it, you're gonna
Yeah.
have a
I would
fairly
say
pleasant time.
every city's gonna have its issues. Like, it's
Right.
weird to just single one out and be like, this is the one that no one wants to play in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, but yeah, good for the Giants to get, a long-term contract on their books, especially one where they had to outbid. They have Logan Webb on a 5-year contract, but that was just an extension. This one is, there were probably multiple bidders for
If anything, that's
Jung-Hoo
better
Lee.
because he wanted to stay in San Francisco,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
right? He could have tested the open market if he really wanted to.
Yeah, Lee could end up hating it there. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
As I say, Lee's never lived there before. You know
exactly.
who has? Logan Webb
Yep.
for
Yep.
multiple years before he signed that extension.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, so anyway, good for the Giants there. Now on to the Boston Red Sox, who have made a couple of moves, sort of bittersweet. Some things are just moving in the right direction, some things moving in the wrong direction. I'm getting very mixed feelings on the hometown team here with the Red Sox.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's one way to put it.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. What do we want to get into first with the Red Sox?
I mean, we could talk about the Giolito signing. I think it's a good signing, assuming that there's more to come. But if this is the big move, it's very frustrating. And I think a lot of Red Sox fans get the feeling of like I'll throw myself into the mix here of being guilty of this, but like immediately my thought was like, oh gosh, this is going to be the big move that they trot out on, on OPay, where they're like, guys, we got Lucas Giolito, who has a 4.89 ERA over the last 2 seasons, and that's our big offseason addition. We're paying him basically the qualifying offer for 2 years now, and he has the opt out, so he can decide if we're stuck with him next year or not, or if he's going to leave to a higher bidder. Like it's obviously that's working off the assumption that they're not doing anything else, which is like not the assumption you need to go off of right now. If it's one of many acquisitions, then I think it's a good it's an interesting test subject for the Craig Breslow Andrew Bailey pitching lab. And if it's the only one, then it's taking a big risk.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And there's a lot of layers to go into the Red Sox and what their off season could potentially look like, because a lot of questions could just be answered. When it comes opening day and rosters are pretty much finalized, and we know where the team's at. I think a lot of questions will be answered on how much of the Red Sox failures over the past few years have been ownership's fault and how much have been front office's fault, because it's just looking more and more like ownership is really putting the constraints on the front office. And I think there was a big report that Chris Cotillo put out like this morning that described what their budgets look like. And there was, he said, and I don't know how much validity there is, because he just said, according to one baseball source, that they told a free agent that they need to shed even more payroll to pursue them, which really, really sucks. But going into Giolito, I think the most positive takeaway from this is he's thrown at least 160 innings in every full year since 2018, and he's only one of 6 pitchers to do that. I looked it up last night, so I forgot the full list, but I know like Garrett Cole, Sandy Alcantara, and Jose Barrios is on that list. I think Lance Lynn, or no, not definitely not
Lance Lynn.
But Lucas Giolito is one of 6 pitchers to have that type of consistent workload, like not miss with injuries. And even in 2020, he averaged, I think, 6 innings per start and made every start. So like he's going to be there. He's going to make his starts. Hopefully that doesn't discontinue with the Red Sox. So that's something the Red Sox definitely need is some innings. They didn't really get that last year from really anybody. They ran into some injury troubles. They just had some roster fluctuation, guys coming up, guys going down, and just a random plethora of guys just making starts for them. So Giolito is going to be there. Whether or not he's going to give quality pitching, that's the question mark. What I'm optimistic about is even in the past 2 years where he struggled, he's had like a 16% strikeout minus walk rate each of those years. So he's getting the swing and miss. He has an above average strikeout rate. He's not walking at guys at a crazy rate. Still sub 10% in the walk rate column. It's just a matter of hard contact, too many fly balls, too many barrels just going out of the ballpark. And yeah, that seems a little bit more fixable than if he was striking out less than 20% of batters he was facing. So there's a little bit of optimism, but obviously, as you said, you don't want this to be the big thing from the Red Sox.
I think the good thing about this signing is that, for Andrew Bailey and for Craig Breslow, it's easy to see what needs to be fixed in terms of his output. It's that he's giving up too many fly balls, too many home runs, and it might not play at Fenway the way that it did at other ballparks. He gave up 41 home runs last year, which was the most in Major League Baseball. But according to StatCast, only 29 of them would have been out at Fenway, which was the lowest of any ballpark. I don't know how much validity there is to that, because I looked at his spray chart and I was assuming that like most of them went to like, either like right center field where the triangle would be, or like deep right field where that weird corner is. And it didn't really look like that, to be honest. In fact, there were a lot of fly balls that looked like they would have gone over the monster that weren't out. So I don't
Right.
know how much validity there is to that. I know that it's Statcast and it tells you what it tells you. It doesn't have agendas or anything. So, it probably is accurate to some degree. And you could use that as encouragement. But ultimately, the strikeout to walk rates are there. The talent is there. It's all about containing the fly ball. And to be honest, Lucas Giolito has always kind of been a home run pitcher, even in the years where he was good. From 2019 to 2021, for example, though that was kind of his peak years. 427 innings pitched in those 3 years, a 3.47 ERA. But even then, he gave up 1.2 home runs per nine, which is above the league average. So, you kind of have to expect that Lucas Giolito is going to give up a lot of home runs, whether he's good or not. It's, I think really what it comes down to is that he limits it to like not crazy over the average, and that he also is efficient when he's keeping the ball in the yard. If he's not giving up a lot of line drives, a lot of hard contact that stays in the park, that goes for extra base hits. The Green Monster might not be the most encouraging thing to see out there for a guy like him, but there's definitely some sort of hope that the Red Sox can fix him.
Yeah, there definitely is. And when we were making MLB, the MLB free agent predictions, we described the whoever was going to sign Giolito was going to be an I can fix him deal. You're not signing him for 19 million a years for 19 million a year because of what he's done in the past 2 years. You're doing it because of the potential that he has, considering what we knew his capabilities were in his mid-20s, before he his performance regressed a little bit toward these last couple of years. It seems like he's had a good bit of trouble with his fastball. Last year, hitters slugged 546 off his four-seamer. That's probably one of the worst in baseball, and that's his most used pitch. He used it over 40% of the time. So I'm wondering, if the pitching lab is gonna either they're gonna improve that fastball or tell him to use that pitch less. I think it's just the first test of what this potential new pitching development program is with the Red Sox. Are they going to be able to get him back to his peak years? Because I think there's question marks with what the White Sox development, player development in general looks like. We went to the Angels, he didn't look great there. We went to the Guardians, who have a good pitching development system, but he was there for a month, so I don't think there really can be that much concluded from there. So who knows if the Red Sox have a new modern way of going about things with Craig Breslow and Andrew Bailey, working together. But it's a lot of question marks here.
I also think a lot of people are going to look at his 2023 season through the lens of his Angels and Guardians days more than the White Sox days, weirdly enough, because he was a big piece that went over to the Angels at the trade deadline. He was the symbol of, okay, the Angels are going for it. In the last few months of having Ohtani before his free agency, they're trading 2 of their top 3 prospects to get this guy. And then he goes out and, puts up a 6.89 ERA, gets put on waivers, and then goes to Cleveland and puts up a 7.04 ERA. So, it's a lot of people are going to look at it that way. And, he wasn't that awful with the White Sox. He had a 3.79 ERA in his first 21 starts. A 4.43 FIP is not fantastic. Definitely not 19 million a year worthy, but that's a little something to go off of that can be a little encouraging.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if this was 2017, 2018, and we didn't have these perceptions of what ownership was like, we'd sign it off and be like, okay, this is a deal we can do. But if the Red Sox are budgeting the way they are, and they're trying to spend smartly, this is something I raise my eyebrows at a little bit, because I think there's just better value to be had. Like, Kenta Maeda, although he hasn't had the innings workload, he only got 12 million. He got a 2-year, $24 million deal, and I think there's an argument that he's a better option right now than Lucas Giolito on an inning per inning basis. But Giolito is going to give that workload at least, so at least the Red Sox have that. Moving on to, or anything more on the Giolito signing?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it before, but the one thing that he can give you is innings, and that is something that the Red Sox need. Their pitching staff in 2023 was kind of filled with guys that couldn't really face the order a third time. Whether it be Tanner Houck, whether it be Nick Pivetta, and some other guys like
Even
Lucas
Bayo.
Giolito can go out there and give you 100. Yeah, Bayo, like guys that can give you, Lucas Giolito can give you 160 innings. He can qualify for the ERA title even if he has a 5 ERA.
Yeah, exactly. He is eighth in innings since 2018. That might even increase from 2019, but I could be wrong. But looking here, seventh in innings since 2019, Lucas Giolito is. So yeah, I mean, he gives overall just workload, and yeah, obviously, as you said, that's what the Red Sox need. But moving on from Giolito, as the Red Sox added to their rotation, they immediately also subtracted from their rotation, which, could end up being a positive because it was a trade. But they traded Chris Sale, the longest tenured member of the roster, I believe, at the time of the trade, had been there since 2017. But they traded him, a year left on his contract, to the Atlanta Braves for Vaughn Grissom, straight up. And the Red Sox are eating $17 million of the $27.5 million owed to Chris Sale in 2024. Obviously kind of a shocking move, just unexpected. What was your reaction to this?
Chris Sale, I mean, fun fact about Chris Sale, he is the all-time leader in strikeouts per nine, which is a very close title between him and a few others at 11.1 right now. But anyway, Chris Sale is such a weird player in Red Sox history because he is one of the best trades the franchise has ever made, but he also got one of the worst contracts the franchise has ever given out. Not only, he was extended after the 2019 season, but the extension didn't start until 2020, where he unfortunately got Tommy John surgery. And overall, in those 4 years, he pitched 151 innings, 102 of those were in 2023. Had a 3.93 ERA, a 1.17 ERA plus, which is, decent numbers, but not quite the guy that they were hoping for. So yeah, I mean, but nonetheless, an ace of the team for many years, a guy that closed out a World Series, a guy that was a part of a trade that they won, I would say, with the White Sox. I mean, Yoan Moncada is still there and he looks good, and Kopech is still there and still has potential, but the Red Sox got exactly what they were hoping for out of Chris Sale between the years of 2016 and 2018. So it is an interesting legacy he leaves behind, but I think a lot of Red Sox fans will have very fond memories of watching him on the mound during the years where he was really on his top game.
Yeah, 100%. Anytime you win a World Series with a team and are one of the main pieces of that World Series championship, you're going to be remembered very fondly. And, it's not really his fault that, the owners wanted to give him $145 million. Like, yeah, you take that. It's a good deal for him, got the good end of the bargain there. But, judging the trade strictly, like they signed or they traded for Sale with 3 years of control left, which is why that haul was so big for him, 2 top 10 prospects. But in those 3 years where he had control was from 2017 to 2019, and he had a 3.08 ERA and 2.57 FIP, and averaged 173 innings per season in those 3 years, and had 14.5 BWAR as well. So I think that out combines, what Moncada and Kopech have delivered to the White Sox. So yeah, I mean, a very, very good trade for the Red Sox. And, the contract, its legacy is going to be really weird because everyone was really happy when it was signed, but no one knew the exact direction the organization was going to go in, literally like 6 months later when they decided, hey, we're going to cut payroll. And if that was the direction they were going to go in, I think fans would be a little more hesitant on celebrating this Chris Sale contract because, it ended up in the trading of Mookie Betts, and obviously the Red Sox fans would have wanted the Red Sox to invest in Mookie Betts more than they would have wanted Chris Sale, but nonetheless, here we are in this situation. But yeah, Sale's legacy is going to be positive. The Braves, I think this is going to be an interesting move for the Braves. Like Chris Sale still has shown that potential, had a sub-4 FIP last year. And the Braves didn't really have any place for Vaughn Grissom. So I feel like this really works out for the Braves more than anybody, because the Red Sox still could use some starting pitching, and we don't really know what Vaughn Grissom is going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Braves, in terms of like value to their own team, I feel like the Braves are definitely gaining more than they're losing. But, the Red Sox and Braves have very different needs right now. The Red Sox do need starting pitching, but they also needed another middle infielder in their everyday lineup. And Vaughn Grissom is, in all likelihood, going to be the everyday second baseman for the Red Sox. And he's another interesting project. He's a 23-year-old who, has looked interesting at times, but hasn't quite gotten the playing time. I need to see the exit velocity numbers go up. Definitely. He's at like 85 miles an hour for his career. If we can get that up to like 88, 89, then I think there's a lot of potential in the Red Sox hands with this signing for sure.
Yeah, I almost view this trade as almost mostly just salary relief for the Red Sox.
Yeah, I mean, they're shedding $17 million of Chris Sale's salary for a year.
I think they're shedding 10.5. I think they're eating the 17 million. And they're shedding 10.5 million. And I don't know what they're going to use that for. I made the joke in our group chat yesterday. It's going to be used for luxury suite renovations, and that could actually be pretty realistic. Who knows? But yeah, Vaughn Grissom, he's a project. He's what, 24 right now? 23? 23. So, he's still working along. He showed great potential in 2022. Kind of struggled last year in the majors, but had great road AAA numbers, which Red Sox Stats on Twitter pointed out. 999 OPS on the road in AAA. Because apparently his home AAA ballpark
is weird.
It's weird. Yeah, it's a little weird for whatever reason, but I'm concerned about his defensive numbers. He's brought negative defensive value at the major league level, according to StatCast. So I don't love that, especially considering I think whatever rotating cast for the Red Sox at that position last year, they provided at least neutral defense. Like Pablo Reyes, I think, was neutral defensively. Even Arroyo at the second base position, I think, was neutral defensively. And who else do they have? Who else did they have over there?
Dude, they had everyone. It's been a rotating door at second base since Dustin Pedroia got hurt in 2017. Really.
Yes.
Brock Holt, Eduardo Nunez.
Yeah, exactly.
Rob Refsnyder.
Right.
I guess he's more of an outfielder, but still.
Yeah, it's been quite the rotating cast, as you said. But yeah, hopefully this turns out positively for the Red Sox roster, but I think a lot of it is salary relief here, and I hope it gets used for a bigger free agent. God, please help. I want that to happen, but I'm having my doubts for many, many reasons.
Yeah, so am I.
But yeah, the Braves, I think, yeah, there were some holes to fill in that rotation. When Sale's healthy, he's still at worst an average pitcher. So, and he provides a lot of strikeouts even with his fastball velocity going down. He has good strikeout to walk numbers, and with a good defense behind him, I think there's a lot that is possible.
Yeah, no, I think this is a very exciting move for the Braves. I think it's an understandable move for the Red Sox. I think there's reason to be happy about this trade for either side.
Yeah, for sure. There's potential with Grissom there. And yeah, I'll be curious to see how many plate appearances he gets. I kind of liked what I saw with Pablo Reyes at the second base position, to be honest, and I might be just more optimistic about Reyes for the 2024 season. But in terms of the next 5 years, Grissom could be a potential guy to fill in there, but even then, like, you got York in the system. However, not to contradict every point I make, but something that Chris Cotillo made a good point with is it just gives the Red Sox more flexibility because now they have more trade options. More, they could dish off Grissom eventually, or they could dish off Nick York eventually, who's a high prospect at the second base position for the Red Sox. So yeah, there's it's still so many question marks with this organization right now.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yep, exactly. Well, all in all, I hope everyone had a great 2023. And if not, I hope you have a better 2024. So I think that's the message of this podcast here.
Yeah, no, it was a very fun season, a very fun year for both of us. Chris and I both graduated college this year. We both got our first full-time jobs in journalism this year. Podcast isn't going anywhere. I am actually moving tomorrow to Binghamton, New York, a couple hours away from me. Chris is in Virginia right now. We're still gonna do the same stuff in 2024, all remote, most likely. And yeah, it's gonna be another fun season of baseball. I'm very excited to see the next season of Major League Baseball.
Yes, it will be exciting. This Dodgers team should be fun to seek out and whatnot. I'm trying to count up the numbers for episodes this year. We put out our first one was 224. This is 288, or at least we're recording in 2023, so that makes it for 65 episodes for 2023. So shout out to that. Shout out to Foolish Bailey for being a guest this year. Mark Simon once again joining us. Mike Petriello and Chris Cotillo for joining the pod this year, adding to a little bit of a decorated cast of guests that we've had on ARR. Hoping to add more to it in 2024. And yeah, good stuff. Good year here for ARR.
Definitely.
And yeah, we hope you enjoyed this one. If you were listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as always, go check out the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. Check out the playlist where you can see all of the guest interviews in chronological order too. You want to see our first one? Want to see the Jeff Passan interview from over 3 years ago now? Go check out that one. It still stands the test of time. It's still a very good interview to listen to. Go back and check out the Chris Rose one from now over 2 years ago. Yeah, good stuff all over there with the guest interviews. Along with that, check out our social medias. Follow me on Twitter at Chris_Giolito. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you next time, where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball, along with the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Once again, we will see you then.
This conversation
is over.